Many people still believe the Russia collusion story, which was all made up, man. And you can go follow this whole thing. It was all made up, and they knew it. They knew what they were doing. There's that clip, by the way, before any of this stuff. This is before Donald Trump ever took office. Did you ever see the Chuck Schumer 6 Ways to Sunday? There are these occasional moments where, even like I said, the thing where Chris Murphy just happens to blurt out like, "Oh yeah, our policies overthrew Yanukovych," right? Like there are these moments where kind of like these rare moments of honesty from the kind of leaders of the regime. Yeah. And this one comes because Rachel Maddow asks him like an impromptu thing. And she says that. She leads that. Yeah. So, but this is just so you know, this is Donald Trump has been elected, but he hasn't been, he's a president-elect here. So it's after the election, but he's not president yet. So this was about him tweeting something here.
Take on the intelligence community. They have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them.
So, and what happened right before that is that Rachel Maddow goes, she goes, "All right, I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, but Donald Trump just tweeted this thing about the intelligence community. Any thoughts on that?" So it's not like he was prepared for this. Right. The most powerful senator in America, his initial gut reaction was like, well, dude. But just to understand, like, the idea of trying to bribe a low-level advisor on a campaign to then somehow take over the administration once he got it'd be like on the level of if someone was like, we're gonna bribe the door guy at the mothership to make sure that the Joe Rogan Experience only talks about these subjects. But we now know that the CIA told the FBI that Carter Page was a good guy, that he was a CIA informant. Then they told the FBI, they were like, no, he's not a spy. He's one of ours. So just lay off. And then the FBI lied about that on the FISA application. And this was the only guy who went down for the frame job, was this one FBI lawyer for misrepresenting what the CIA said. So basically, they said that he was approached by Russians, and that he was approached by a group of Russians to see if he would turn and work for them. And then when they were putting in the application for the FISA warrant, the FBI said he was approached by these Russians and the CIA confirmed it. So they said that the CIA confirmed that he was approached by these guys, but they left out the part that the CIA said, and he came right back to us and told us about it. So that one guy was the only guy who got charged.
Did he get?
Because it was no jail time, but he did get charged.
Carter Page got charged?
No. The FBI agent the FBI lawyer who lied on the application.
Oh, interesting.
Carter Page, they had 3 FISA court warrants on him. They spied on him all up and down. Never been charged. Why was the January 6th thing? Why would any of this be coming down right now?
Right.
All those other people in January 6th, they got charged and arrested immediately. It was determined by the powers that be, with the corporate media, the deep state, all of the establishment, that he was unacceptable. And that's not new to Donald Trump. There were a lot of candidates who have been determined to be unacceptable. Ron Paul was unacceptable. Bernie Sanders was unacceptable. Tulsi Gabbard was unacceptable. And you saw like the machine be weaponized against all of them to keep them out. But Trump beat the machine. Yeah. And part of what was so powerful about that is that it kind of destroyed the illusion of inevitability that I think progressives rely on. That, like progressives will very confidently tell you that you're on the wrong side of history, which is like a really interesting thing to say if you think about it. Like you're on the wrong side of history, meaning like it's a guarantee that history is moving in my direction, and I'm telling you how you will be judged in the future based off how you feel right now.
The problem is it has the opposite effect on his base. It doesn't make people reluctant. It makes people more convinced that there's a conspiracy against him. It makes people more convinced that there's corruption that's fighting against him.
I think, personally, that Trump was at his most vulnerable within the Republican primary at the very beginning. I thought for the first time to me, he seemed like he was very out of step with his own base He's sitting there still bragging about Operation Warp Speed and how he saved hundreds of millions of lives by developing the vaccine. He was getting booed a few times at his own speeches. He just seemed kind of out of touch, and it seemed like, it seemed like the energy of his campaign wasn't 2016, which was Make America Great Again. This was like My Vengeance Tour. He lied to Congress. Why isn't he arrested for it? It's like, because there's no political will to arrest that guy. He's of the deep state. He's one of the top guys. He's not getting arrested. Now, Michael Cohen lied to Congress. He got a month wrong when he was talking about a deal that he was working on for Trump. He said it happened in June, but it was really in January or something like that. He got charged with that. And because they wanted to put pressure on him to get him to flip on Donald Trump, which he did. So it's not like there are crimes that are committed all the time. There's just no political will. There's no desire to arrest that person. And I think the thing that's wild about this with Trump is that if you think of all the crimes that presidents have committed, the idea that this is what one of them is actually going to go down for is insane. So that thing in Vietnam? It probably smelled like a war to you, but no, not a war. Korea wasn't a war. Iraq wasn't a war. Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, none of those were wars. It's anyone, if there was any political will, any one of these presidents could be arrested for any number of crimes. And yet they're not. But yet Trump didn't give back the classified information quickly enough, even after they asked him. Oh, he's got to be indicted for that. Even though other presidents have done pretty much the same thing, no, he's got to be indicted for that.
What is the Georgia thing is interesting because he was going to have a press conference where he was going to reveal all of the information that proves that he was telling the truth about the Georgia election being rigged.
Yeah,
and then he didn't have the press conference.
Yeah, the issue with the thing in Georgia, where I will grant there's like a little bit of a gray area there. And I think that, look, there is a gray area there. It's kind of like when they impeached Trump over Ukraine. There was like a little bit of a gray area of like what exactly he did. It's just that when you look at things of all the crimes that presidents commit, the idea that you go after a president for this, it's so petty compared to these greater crimes. But like he called the Secretary of State in Georgia and was kind of like, I need you to find me these votes. But he was like, look, there's been fraud. I know there's been fraud. You got to go look for it. And the guy's like, I don't see any evidence that there's fraud here. And he's like, find it. I know there's fraud. He was putting pressure on the guy to go look. Right. But it's not as if he was telling the guy, I need you to commit fraud.
Right.
He wasn't telling him, I want you to flip votes or I want you to manipulate something. He's like, I want you to go find where the fraud is.
Right.
So you'd almost have to prove that he didn't really believe that.